Okay, Darren, we have a high stakes matchup in Greenville, Timmons Arena. ETSU rolling into town to take on the Furman Paladins. ETSU still with a strong hold there at number one. I don't think there's any way they're going to be caught. Now, mathematically, they still can be caught, but certain things have to happen. And the number one thing that has to happen is that they have to go winless in their last four games. And based on what we've seen from the Buccaneers this season under head coach Brooks Savage, I think that would be a shocker if ETSU goes 0-4 for the last four games of this conference slate.
Yeah, I find that one hard to believe. I don't necessarily think they are playing their best basketball right now.
That's right.
But that team has been, for the most part, a model of consistency throughout the year, especially in conference play. I don't see that happening either. I think for all intents and purposes, they've got that number one seed locked up, but they certainly need to figure out a way to kind of get some stuff figured out heading into Asheville. Because if we are nitpicking, they are not playing their best basketball of the year or even in conference play right now. And so they need to get that figured out.
No, I would agree. And when you look at ETSU and we say that they're not playing their best basketball, I mean, they did come into that game against Samford with a 4-game win streak. So it's not that they're playing like horrible basketball.
Right.
But we're saying relative to what we have seen from ETSU and knowing that some of those games, they were down big and had to fight back.
Yeah.
And you had to fight and claw your way back there at home against Furman, with Furman having a big lead back on February the 4th. And then same thing happened against Samford. You get down early and you have to fight back and you lose that one in overtime in Samford, but you win the one there in overtime against Furman. So it's all relative to what we've seen ETSU over the past season, over the past week. So again, we're not saying that ETSU is a bad team all of a sudden, that they have forgotten how to play or anything like that. But we know Furman's sitting there at 8-6. And so this is huge from a standings perspective for the Furman Paladins. If they want to keep pace and try to finish in that top four right now, they're tied for fourth. So can Furman climb the standings? And that starts Wednesday night in Timmons Arena, 6:30. And I'm excited about it because I'm going to be on the call for that. So I get to see it up close and personal. But when you look at this matchup though, Darren, I'm wondering what are some of the keys in terms of how ETSU can be effective? Because we know they lead the conference in steals, and they do a good job of also not turning the ball over. And Furman, they've struggled in terms of turnovers in certain situations. They've been sped up at times and gotten out of somewhat of their rhythm. And we know that the turnovers, the live ball turnovers, those are backbreakers. And ETSU does a really good job of creating some of those. So when you look at this matchup, outside of turnovers there, and the front court matchup, I think those are two of the areas that I'm really looking at in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of ETSU, I look at four things here. Obviously, like you mentioned it, they absolutely have to turn Furman over because that's a way that they're going to be able to generate offense. Their strength is to be able to get some of those points in transition off live ball turnovers. They can score in the half court, but they want to supplement their half court scoring with a significant amount of points off turnovers. And so if they can get those points in transition and then those points off turnovers, I think that's going to put them in a really good spot to be able to supplement that with their half court offense. The second thing, they got to limit Alex Wilkins. They did a good job of this in the first matchup in that they turned him over 11 times, and that led to a ton of fast break opportunities for ETSU, and it allowed them in particular in the second half to really get back into the game. The other thing, they got to defend the three-point line. Now that Furman's fully healthy, they're going to have more likely than not 3 plus 40% three-point shooters on the floor at one time. And so they're going to need to limit Furman's ability to shoot it from deep. And in particular, Asa Thomas. You and I have talked about it all the time. He's really the X factor. I went back and I looked through some stuff in conference, throughout the year, not even just in conference play. When Asa Thomas scores 15 or more points, Furman is 7-0.
Wow.
Okay. When he scores less than 15, they're 3-7. And then games that they've played without him, they're 4-3. So overall, when he scores less than 15 points, they're 7-11, right? And they're 7-0 when he scores 15 or more. So to me, as part of defending that 3-point line, you have to limit Asa Thomas. I mean, that's a pretty telling stat, I feel like, at this point in the year of him truly being an X factor. And he's been very good when he's been in the lineup. So that's important. And then the last piece that I would say is kind of the fourth angle here that ETSU needs to do to win this game. They have to be ready to go from the tip. It's inexcusable not to be ready to go regardless. You just have to. But it's wild that you wouldn't be ready to go, not excusing it against anybody else, but it's wild that you wouldn't be ready to go, especially at home against a team like Furman or a team like Samford. So now on the road at Furman, big time matchup. This could be a very likely matchup again in 3 weeks, right? So you need to play well tomorrow night. And so they have to go from the jump. I think if they're not ready to go from the jump on the road at Timmons, where I would anticipate a good crowd tomorrow night, it's going to be really, really tough to come back from a, if they dig themselves a 15-point hole. I just don't see that happening again. So I think those are really the keys for ETSU to put themselves in the best position to win the game.
Yeah, and I would agree with you in terms of they've got to be ready to go. They've got to try to silence the crowd, get Furman into some early timeouts there to take the wind out of the sails, so to speak. And that stat that you talked about with Asa Thomas, because that is very telling, and that is no doubt that's one of the keys for ETSU. You're going to have to push guys out on the perimeter and get them off that 3-point line. You do not want Furman to get hot. Now, they've struggled relatively for the entire season, what we've seen Furman in the past from a 3-point shooting perspective, just roughly 33% for the season right now. Mm-hmm. But I would imagine those games that you're talking about with Asa Thomas that has scored 15 or more points, I would suspect those are the games where Furman was reaching above 38% from beyond the arc because he seems to be that type of engine. So that's going to be a key factor. And I think Charles Johnston's going to have to be a guy that he's going to have to be able to knock down some of those threes in this game. That's going to open things up for Cooper down low because you've got Cam Morris the third there, physical presence, and Blake Barkley. We know that. So can you pull some of those bigs out and be able to have Charles Johnston be that guy to do it? And Charles Johnston's also, he's going to have to rebound. I mean, this is going to come down to a rebounding battle between the two front courts here. So I think that's part of it. And can Furman, can they limit their turnovers like you talked about? They had 21 turnovers against East Tennessee State last time in Johnson City on the 4th. So that's going to be a key factor there. And I think at the end of the day, though, I think Furman's going to find a way here, and they're going to get hot from the 3-point line. I think the lob position, the pick and roll is so hard to defend with those guys. I think Alex Wilkins will be able to get into that elite distribution mode, so to speak, and maybe not have to rely so much on him from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
So I think I'm taking the Paladins here and being able to get it done and keep pace there to try to finish in the top 4.
Yeah, and I think in addition to what you said that will really help Furman, Charles Johnston did hit 3 threes against ETSU in their last meeting. He was 3 of 6 from 3. He did foul out, so I think that's something to keep an eye on. That obviously will want to keep him out of foul trouble. But I agree with you. I think he's going to need to have a big night as well. And look, we talked about it. The 11 turnovers for Alex Wilkins were a killer, but he did shoot 8 of 14 from the field, so he wasn't inefficient from a scoring perspective. So if he can limit those turnovers by a significant portion, if he can cut it to frankly 2 to 4, and still shoot 8 of 14 from the field, that's going to be a massive difference because all jokes aside, I mean, let's just say even as 3, well, guess what? You just cut down 8 turnovers. You have at least 8 more shots that are going to go up. Right. And so now you add some 3-point shooting, all those things mix in to say, they're going to be much, much more ready to go to be able to have the firepower that they need by taking care of the basketball. I think they do need to control tempo, right?
Yeah.
They definitely want to play, like they want to be able to play at a little faster pace, be able to get into a flow offensively where the ball's really popping side to side and they're cutting well, right? If they're taking care of the basketball and they're able to do that and they're cutting well, they're going to generate good shots and they're going to generate good shots for shooters. And then defensively, the last thing I'd say is they're going to have to be able to defend dribble penetration, because in the half court, ETSU is going to want to punch the paint and they're going to want to spray out, right?
That's right.
Alternatively, they're going to want to punch the paint and score it inside. So I think that Furman's really going to have to be able to defend dribble penetration. ETSU is not going to run anything exotic or sexy offensively. So can you really just lock in and then play great help defense, right? Yeah. And if you can do those things, I look for Furman to win this game as well. I think they're at home. I think they're getting back to full strength. I think that this is a game that Coach Bob Ritchie gets his guys consistently ready to play for. And I just frankly don't see them losing at home, coming off that loss that they had in Johnson City a couple weeks back.
Yeah, this is going to be a big time matchup, and I think there might be a little bit of revenge factor or avenging that loss in overtime. All right, real quick though, UNCG taking on Western Carolina also on Wednesday, and the Spartans trying to win their 5th consecutive game here in the Southern Conference. They're one of the hottest teams right now, led by Justin Neely. So just real quick, your thoughts on what does UNCG need to do to win there in Cullowhee?
Yeah, look, I'd love for a vintage Mike Jones performance from this team, but that just hasn't been their consistent way to win throughout this year. So for them, honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but continue to score it at the level that they've had.
That's right.
They've averaged 85 points per game over this win streak. They've only played one game in the 60s, and that was the kind of vintage Mike Jones performance that we talked about at Furman. And is illustrated by when they score it. This group's a little bit different. In league, when they score 77 or more points, they're 6-3, right? So the makeup of this team is built on this team scores it more to win. So I think keep that scoring up. Make sure that keep KJ Younger going. Keep him in double figures. And look, you mentioned it on this week's episode. Lillian Marville, they're 4-1 in league when he scores double figures.
Yeah.
And so
he's a difference maker right now.
He is. And he's a difference maker from the guard spot.
Yes.
You know what you've got with Justin Neely. You've got interior presence. Yes, he can step out onto the perimeter, but this is a guard-oriented league, and you need to have guards that can make a major impact on the game. And Lillian Marvell is doing that right now. So can you get him into double figures? And frankly, the last thing I'd add, do they have enough stops in them if Western gets it going offensively? Because as we've talked about, Western can get 4 guys in double figures, even 5 guys in double figures. And when they do, they're a very tough matchup.
That's right.
Because they can score it with you. So can UNCG get enough stops and keep Western from getting 4 guys in double figures? I think if they can keep 3 or less guys in double figures defensively, they'll be able to do a good enough defensive job to come out with a win here.
That's why I think Cullowhee is a very difficult place to play, but I'm rolling with the Spartans here. I think Justin Neely is a difference maker. He's very hard to defend. We've already talked about that. KJ Younger. And don't be surprised if we see Noah Norgard. He'll hit some big shots in this game. He didn't shoot the ball well in that game against Wofford, but I do think there's an opportunity where he can kind of right the ship. And then Lillian Marville, if he can continue his stellar play, I'm thinking that the Spartans are going to be able to go into Cullowhee and take this victory. But it will be a big time week of Southern Conference basketball, and we'll have some more previews as Saturday's games will be even bigger, implications all over the place. And if you want more of the content, just make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll be talking about it and breaking it all down on our Monday episodes. Make sure you do that. And also, hey, how about this? We're
I think I
going
know where you're going.
live broadcast
Yes.
Saturday, February the 21st at Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium. Furman taking on Wofford there, 7 p.m. tip-off time. Yes, our inaugural live broadcast pregame. Yes, it's our own version of SoCon Fast Break game day. We're going to be there
Yeah.
broadcasting live 90 minutes before tip-off. And so to get all of that information and the notification, just hit that subscribe button on YouTube or even follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, including the iHeartRadio app. Until next time, may all your jumpers hit nothing but the bottom of the net.